A human colony went dark. The galaxy learned why you don't corner humans. Part 1, Silence Falls. The message came at dawn, when the twin sons of Seven were just starting to paint the sky orange and gold. Was drinking her morning tea in her small office, looking out at the colony she had helped build with her own hands. New was not a beautiful place. The buildings were simple metal boxes. The streets were dusty. The air always smelled faintly of sulfur from the mines. But it was home to 12,000 humans and loved every ugly corner of it. Her computer made a soft sound. A message was coming through on the official government channel. Put down her tea and opened it. The face that appeared on her screen was not human. It belonged to a tall creature with gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of tiny sharp teeth. They were one of the 3 species that controlled the Dominion, the largest empire in this part of the galaxy. They had ruled over dozens of star systems for thousands of years. They were not used to being told no. Administrator of new colony, they said. His voice was cold and flat, like metal scraping against stone. The Dominion has reviewed your mining operations. The rare earth minerals found on Seven are of strategic importance. You will transfer all mining rights to the Dominion immediately. Your people will be relocated to a different world. You have 72 hours to comply. Stared at the screen. She thought about her husband, who had died 3 years ago in a mining accident. He had given his life to build this colony. She thought about her 2 children, Minyu and who had been born here, who had never known any other home. She thought about the 12,000 people who depended on her to keep them safe. No, she said. The blinked all 4 of his eyes. I do not think you understand. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. I understand perfectly, replied. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking under the desk. This colony belongs to humanity. We built it. We bled for it. We will not give it away because you want our rocks. The mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. Then you will face administrative correction. The Dominion does not tolerate defiance from lesser species. The screen went dark. Sat alone in her office for a long time. Then she picked up her communicator and called. Was the head of colonial security. He was a big man with gray hair and a cybernetic arm that he had gotten in some war he never talked about. When he walked into his office 20 minutes later, his face was already grim. He had heard the news. How long do we have? He asked. 72 hours, maybe less. Sat down heavily in the chair across from her desk. His metal arm clicked and whirred as he rubbed his face. We have 40 security officers, some mining explosives, a few hunting rifles, against the Dominion. I know, said. We should evacuate, get the children out at least. There might be time. There's nowhere to go, interrupted. The nearest human colony is 3 weeks away by ship, and I don't think the Dominion is going to let anyone leave. She was right. The next morning the sky filled with ships. Had never seen a Dominion warship before, only pictures. The pictures did not do them justice. Each ship was enormous, bigger than the entire colony, covered in weapons that gleamed like teeth. They blocked out the suns. They hung in the sky like a promise of death. 200 ships. 200 ships for one small mining colony of 12,000 people. The communications went down first. One moment was trying to send a distress signal to Earth. The next moment there was only static. The Dominion had jammed everything: radio, quantum links, emergency beacons. New was cut off from the rest of humanity. Then the power grid flickered. The water treatment plant stopped working. The food preservation systems began to fail. The Dominion was not attacking. Not yet. They were squeezing slowly like a hand closing around a throat. Called a meeting of all the colony's leaders in the main hall. Was there, along with the chief medical officer, was a small woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She had delivered half the bobbies in the colony. She had also, served as a combat medic in her younger days. They want us to surrender, told the crowd. They think if they make us hungry enough, scared enough, we'll give up and walk out with our hands raised. Maybe we should, someone shouted from the back. Maybe surrender is better than dying. Looked at the crowd. She saw fear in their eyes. She understood that fear. She felt it herself, cold and heavy in her stomach. "Let me tell you what surrender means," she said. "The Dominion doesn't take prisoners. They don't relocate people to nice new colonies. I've read the reports from other worlds they've corrected. The adults go to labor camps. The children go to re-education centers. Most of them don't come back." The hall went silent. "I'm not telling you what to do," continued. "This is your home, your lives, your choice, but I'm staying and I'm fighting." He nodded slowly. The doctor's kind eyes had turned hard as stone. "I'm with you," said. One by one, hands went up around the hall. Not everyone. Some people were crying. Some were arguing with their families, but most of them raised their hands. That night, the evacuation of the surface began. Led teams into the mining tunnels that ran beneath the colony like veins through a body. The tunnels were dark and cold and went deep into the moon's crust. They had been built to extract minerals. Now they would become shelter, fortress, and weapon. The colonists moved everything they could carry: food, water, medicine, tools, weapons. They moved the children first, then the elderly, then everyone else. By morning, new streets were empty. The buildings stood silent and abandoned under the watching eyes of the Dominion fleet. Was the last to go underground. Before she descended into the tunnels, she looked up at the sky one final time. The warships were still there, waiting. "You think we're weak," she whispered. "You think we're afraid, you think we'll break." She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "You have no idea what you've started." Far away, in the halls of the Galactic Council, diplomats from 100 species discussed trade agreements and border disputes. Someone mentioned that communications with a small human colony had gone dark. A minor note. A footnote in a report that no one read. Humans were a young species, unimportant. They had only been in space for 300 years. They had only a handful of colonies. They were not a threat to anyone. The galaxy did not notice new silence. The galaxy would learn to regret that. In the darkness beneath the moon's surface, 12,000 humans prepared for war. They did not have warships. They did not have advanced weapons. They did not have powerful allies. But they had something the Dominion did not understand. Something no species in the galaxy truly understood about humanity. They had absolutely nothing left to lose. And that made them the most dangerous thing in the universe. A human colony went dark. The galaxy learned why you don't corner humans. Part 2: The Cornered Animal. Captain of the Dominion ground forces stood at the edge of new and felt nothing but boredom. This was supposed to be a simple job. Land on the planet, round up the humans, process them for relocation. His commanders had told him it would take 3 days at most. Humans were soft creatures. They broke easily. But the colony was empty. Walked through the abandoned streets with 50 of his soldiers behind him. Their boots made loud sounds on the metal walkways. The buildings were dark. The windows stared at them like dead eyes. There was no movement anywhere. "Where are they?" one of his soldiers asked. Checked his scanner. It showed heat signatures below the surface. The humans had gone underground into the mining tunnels. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Foolish creatures. They were only delaying the inevitable. "Send the first squad into the tunnels," he ordered. "Flush them out." 20 soldiers marched toward the main mine entrance. They disappeared into the darkness, waited for their report. It never came. After 2 hours, he sent another squad. They also disappeared. No communications, no signals, nothing. By the end of the first day, had lost 60 soldiers. He had not seen a single human. Deep in the tunnels, watched the enemy through cameras that the colonists had hidden throughout the mine system. He sat in a small control room surrounded by screens and blinking lights. Beside him stood a 19-year-old miner who had never held a weapon before last week. "They're sending another group," said. His voice was shaking. "How many?" 30, maybe 40. Nodded. He pressed a button on his console. Somewhere in the tunnels, explosive charges that the miners had placed went off. The screens showed rock and metal collapsing. The enemy soldiers vanished under tons of stone. "That's Tunnel 7, said calmly. "They can't use that route anymore. Move our people to Position 9. Stared at him. "How can you be so calm? We just killed." "We survived," interrupted. "That's all that matters now. Go, move." Rand stayed, watching the screens. He had seen war before. He knew what it did to people. He knew what it was about to do to this colony of miners and farmers and children. But there was no other choice. Surrender meant death. Fighting meant death too, probably. But at least they would die on their feet. In another part of the tunnels was building weapons. She had turned a storage room into a laboratory. Tables were covered with chemicals, tubes, wires, and medical supplies. Her hands moved quickly and carefully, mixing compounds that the colonists had found in the mines. "What are you making?" asked an old woman who sat in the corner watching. "Something the Dominion won't expect," replied. Was 87 years old. She had lived through the Korean unification wars on Earth, back when humans still fought each other instead of aliens. She had seen cities burn. She had seen armies fall. She knew things about survival that no one else in the colony understood. "I was younger than you when my country went to war," said. "We had nothing. No weapons, no food, no hope. They told us to surrender. They said resistance was foolish." "What did you do?" Smiled. Her teeth were yellow and some were missing, but her eyes were sharp and bright. "We made them pay for every street, every building, every room. We turned our homes into traps. We turned our tools into weapons. We showed them that conquering a map is easy, but conquering a people is impossible." Stopped working and looked at the old woman. "Did you win?" "We survived. That's what matters. Empires come and go, but people who refuse to break, they last forever." Thought about that, then she went back to work. The second week of the siege was worse than the first. Captain brought more soldiers. He brought heavy weapons. He tried to pump poison gas into the tunnels, but the colonists had sealed the entrances and built ventilation systems from mining equipment. He tried to drill new holes into the tunnels, but the colonists collapsed them before his troops could enter. He tried to starve them out, but the colonists had stockpiled enough food and water for months. Every day more Dominion soldiers died. They died in cave-ins. They died from traps, pits filled with sharpened metal, wires connected to explosives, false floors that dropped them into darkness. They died from ambushes, humans appearing from hidden passages, attacking with mining tools and homemade bombs, then vanishing before the Dominion could respond. Had never seen anything like it. The species he had conquered before always gave up when they saw they were beaten. They accepted their fate. They surrendered. These humans did not surrender. On the 14th day, led a team personally into the tunnels. He wanted to see these creatures for himself. He wanted to understand what made them fight so hard for a worthless rock in space. They found a group of humans in a wide chamber. Women mostly, some children. They were huddled against the far wall looking scared. Smiled, finally. He raised his weapon to signal his soldiers forward. The wall behind the humans opened. It was not a wall at all, but a hidden door. Behind it stood 20 human men with mining drills modified to cut through armor. Beside them stood, holding a device in her hand. "You wanted to find us," said. "Here we are." She pressed the button. The ceiling collapsed. Barely escaped. Half his team did not. That night in his command post on the surface, sent a message to the fleet above. His hands were shaking. "The humans are not surrendering. Request additional forces. Request orbital bombardment. request anything. These creatures are not normal. They fight like nothing I have ever seen. They fight like they have already decided to die and are simply choosing how to take us with them. Admiral received the message on his flagship. He read it twice, then he deleted it. Orbital bombardment would destroy the mines. The whole point of this operation was to capture the minerals intact. Besides, how hard could it be to defeat 12,000 farmers with no military training? He sent more soldiers, 5,000 more. 3 weeks later, 3,000 of them were dead. In the tunnels, the humans were tired. They were hungry. They were running out of medicine and ammunition, but they were still fighting. Died on the 32nd day of the siege. She was helping move supplies when her heart simply stopped. She died in his arms, in a dark tunnel far from the sun. Before she died, she grabbed his hand. Her grip was weak, but her eyes were fierce. "Don't let them break you," she whispered. "Empires fall, people endure. Remember that, remember." They buried her in the deepest part of the mine where the enemy could never reach her, said a few words. Some people cried. Then they went back to fighting. On the surface, stood in the empty streets of New and screamed at the sky. He had lost more soldiers in 2 months than he had lost in his entire career. He had lost friends. He had lost his reputation. He had lost his mind, a little bit, in the darkness of those tunnels. "Why won't you just give up?" he shouted at the ground. "Why won't you just die?" Far below, in the flickering light of a makeshift command center, heard his voice through the monitoring system. She looked at, who was no longer a scared boy but a hardened fighter with cold eyes. "Because that's not what humans do," she said softly. "We don't know how to quit, we never have. It's our greatest strength and our greatest flaw." She turned to her people. "We need to get a message out. The galaxy needs to know what's happening here. If we die in these tunnels, we die forgotten. But if we can tell our story, if we can show humanity what the Dominion has done." Howe asked. "The blockade is total, nothing gets through." Looked at the map of the system. 200 warships surrounded them. It was impossible. But impossible had never stopped humans before. "We'll find a way," she said. "We always do." A human colony went dark. The galaxy learned why you don't corner humans. Part 3, the message gets out. 4 months into the siege, sat in the cockpit of a ship that was never meant to fly in combat. It was a mining transport, slow, heavy, with shields that could barely stop space dust. The colonists had welded extra metal plates to its hull and filled its cargo hold with communication equipment. It looked like a dying animal held together with hope and wire. Was 34 years old. Before coming to New, he had been a racing pilot on Earth. He had won championships. He had flown through asteroid fields for fun. He was the best pilot in the colony, which was why I had chosen him for this mission. She had not told him the odds. He had figured them out himself. They were not good. "You don't have to do this," said through the communicator. She was standing in the tunnel control room, watching his ship on a cracked screen. "We can find another way." Laughed. It was not a happy sound. "There is no other way, you know it, I know it, let's not pretend." In the seat behind him was finishing the final preparations. She was the colony's communications specialist, a quiet woman with short hair and fingers that moved like lightning across keyboards. For the past 2 weeks, she had been compressing 6 months of footage into a single burst transmission. Everything was there. The siege, the fighting, the dead, the Dominion's war crimes, its message to humanity. All of it would be sent in one massive pulse, directly at a relay beacon 3 million kilometers away. If they could get close enough, if they survived long enough. "Transmission is ready," said. 40 seconds, that's all I need." 40 seconds. Had done the math. The Dominion ships would detect them within 10 seconds of launch. They would be in firing range within 20 seconds. Their weapons would hit within 30 seconds. 40 seconds was a lifetime. 40 seconds was forever. "Then let's make it count," said. The ship launched from a hidden exit in the mountains, far from where the Dominion was watching. For a moment, just a moment, they were invisible, a small dark shape against the black of space. Then the alarm started. On the Dominion flagship, Admiral looked up from his dinner when an officer rushed in. "Sir, a human vessel has launched. It's heading toward the relay beacon." Wiped his mouth calmly. "Destroy it." "Yes, sir." 20 ships changed course to intercept. Their weapons powered up, filling space with the hum of death. Saw them coming. He pushed the engines harder than they were ever meant to go. The ship groaned and shook. Warning lights flashed across every panel. Behind him was strapped into her seat, watching the distance counter decrease. 3 million kilometers, 2 million, 1 million. The first shots hit their shields. The ship lurched. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Something exploded in the back. "Shields are gone," reported. Her voice was steady, almost bored. "Hull integrity at 60%. Didn't respond. He was flying on instinct now, dodging and weaving through a storm of fire. The Dominion ships were all around them, above, below, on every side. There was nowhere to run. But he wasn't trying to run. He was trying to get close. 500,000 kilometers, 300,000, 100,000. Another hit. The ship's left side crumpled inward. Felt pain in his legs but didn't look down. He didn't want to know. "Distance to beacon?" he asked. 50,000 kilometers, almost there, almost. The biggest hit yet. The ship broke apart around them. Saw stars through holes in the hull. He saw, still at her console, still typing with bloody fingers. "Sending now," she said. The transmission went out. A single pulse of light carrying everything, every death, every battle, every scream, every moment of defiance. It flew toward the relay beacon at the speed of light. 3 seconds later, the beacon caught it and sent it outward in every direction, toward every human colony in range. 4 seconds after that, ship exploded. On the flagship, Admiral watched the debris scatter across space. He felt satisfied. The humans had failed. Their pathetic attempt at communication had been stopped. Then his communications officer went pale. "Sir, they sent a burst transmission. Before we destroyed them, it reached the beacon." Stared at him. "What?" It's spreading, sir. We can't stop it. It's already reached 3 human systems, 4, 5. Sat down slowly. For the first time since the siege began, he felt something like fear. The message reached Earth first. It appeared on every screen, every device, every system simultaneously. People stopped what they were doing and watched. They saw they saw the blockade. They saw the tunnels and the fighting and the dead bodies of children caught in crossfire. They saw an old woman named dying in the darkness. They saw a young man named learning to kill. They saw ordinary people becoming soldiers because they had no other choice. And at the end they saw. She was standing in a dim room, her face dirty and tired, her eyes burning with something that was not hatred but something deeper, something older. "My name is," she said. "I am the administrator of New Colony. For 6 months the Dominion of has tried to destroy us. They have killed our people. They have starved our children. They have committed crimes that the galaxy pretends not to see." She paused. Behind her, sounds of distant explosions echoed. "We are still here. We are still fighting. We will fight until there is no one left to fight, not because we think we can win, but because surrender is not something humans know how to do." Her voice broke slightly, then steadied. "To the Dominion, you wanted our home. You will have to kill every single one of us to take it. And even then, even when we are all dead, you will remember us. You will remember what you had to do to defeat a colony of farmers and miners and children. You will remember, and you will never feel clean again." She looked directly into the camera. "To humanity, do not forget us. Do not let our deaths mean nothing. Show the galaxy what happens when you corner our species. Show them what we are capable of when we have nothing left to lose." The screen went dark. Across human space there was silence, then there was rage. On Earth, protests filled the streets within hours. People demanded action. They demanded war. They demanded that the Dominion pay for what it had done. On Mars, the colonial government voted unanimously to send aid. On Titan, shipyards began working around the clock. On a dozen other worlds, civilians volunteered to fight. They sold their homes to buy weapons. They converted their personal ships into warships. They did things that no rational species would do. Because humans are not a rational species, not when their family is threatened, not when their people are dying. The military responded. The United Human Navy had only been created 50 years ago, and it was small compared to the Dominion's forces. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in fury. Admiral Park was eating breakfast when he received the orders. He watched message 3 times. He watched the children dying. He watched the old woman speaking her last words. He watched ordinary people standing against an empire. Then he stood up and walked to his bridge. "Set course for 7, he said. "All ships, every ship we have, every ship we can find." His tactical officer looked up. "Sir, the Dominion has 200 warships there. We have." "I don't care what we have," Park interrupted. His voice was quiet, but something in it made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. "I don't care about numbers. I don't care about odds. Those are our people. They've been dying alone for 6 months because we didn't know. Now we know." He looked out the window at the stars. Now the galaxy is going to learn something important, something they should have learned a long time ago. "What's that, sir?" asked. Admiral Park smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Never make humanity angry, because we don't fight to win. We fight to make you remember. We fight to make you regret. We fight until there's nothing left, and then we keep fighting." He turned to his crew. "Send the word. Every human ship in every system. Tell them new is waiting. Tell them it's time to bring our people home." The message went out, and humanity answered. A human colony went dark. The galaxy learned why you don't corner humans. Part 4, the fleet arrives. Admiral was reviewing casualty reports when the alarms began. 6 months of this siege had aged him. His scales, once bright blue, had faded to gray. His 4 eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep. He had lost 8,000 soldiers to a colony of 12,000 farmers. His career was ruined. His reputation was destroyed. All he wanted now was to finish this mission and forget it ever happened. Then his sensor officer screamed. Looked up, and what is it? The officer was staring at his screen like he had seen death itself. "Ships, sir. Human ships. They're coming out of faster-than-light travel." "How many?" The officer didn't answer. He just pointed at the screen. Walked over and looked. His blood went cold. Ships were appearing everywhere. They filled the screen like stars. Big ships, small ships, military ships, civilian ships. They kept coming and coming, an endless tide of metal and fury pouring out of the darkness of space. 800, the officer whispered. 847 ships, sir. Stared, this was impossible. The humans didn't have this many military vessels. They were a young species with a small navy. Where had all these ships come from? Then he looked closer and understood. Half of them weren't military ships at all. He saw cargo transports with weapons welded to their hulls. He saw luxury yachts bristling with missiles. He saw mining vessels converted into battering rams. He saw passenger ships with their windows replaced by gun ports. The humans had not sent an army. They had sent everyone, every ship they could find, every person willing to fight. And they were all coming straight for him. A communication came through. Opened it with shaking hands. A human face appeared on his screen. It belonged to a man with gray hair and cold eyes. His uniform was decorated with medals that didn't recognize. "This is Admiral Park of the United Human Navy 3rd Fleet," the man said. You are in orbit around a human colony. You have killed human citizens. You have committed acts of war against our species." Park's voice was calm, almost pleasant, like he was discussing the weather. "You have 30 minutes to withdraw, take your soldiers and leave. If you do this, we will let you go. We will not pursue, we will not attack." He leaned forward slightly. "If you do not leave, we will destroy your entire fleet. We will kill every soldier you have on that moon. Then we will go to your home systems, and we will make sure the Dominion never forgets what happens when you hurt our people." Park smiled. It was the smile of a wolf. "You have 30 minutes. Choose wisely." The screen went dark. Stood frozen. Around him, his officers were panicking, shouting orders, calling for battle stations, but couldn't move. He was trying to understand what he was seeing. The humans were outnumbered. Their technology was inferior. Many of their ships weren't even real warships. By every logical calculation, they should lose this battle. But there was something in Admiral Park's eyes, something that told this man didn't care about winning or losing. He didn't care about dying. He cared only about making the Dominion suffer. 30 minutes passed. Did not withdraw. The battle began. Admiral Park had spent the entire journey to 7 developing his strategy. He had studied the Dominion's tactics. He had learned how they fought, in neat formations, exchanging fire at long range, following the rules of civilized warfare that the galaxy had used for thousands of years. Humans did not fight that way. "All ships," Park said, "execute hammer protocol." The human fleet did not form a battle line. It did not stay at safe distance. Instead, it charged straight into the Dominion formation like a swarm of angry insects. The Dominion gunners couldn't believe what they were seeing. No species did this. It was suicide. It was madness. It was working. The human ships were too close for the Dominion's heavy weapons. They were too fast for the targeting systems. They swarmed around the larger Dominion vessels, firing at weak points, ramming when they ran out of ammunition. A cargo ship crashed directly into a Dominion cruiser's engine section. Both ships exploded. 3 human pilots died, but they took 1,000 Dominion soldiers with them. A yacht filled with explosives flew into a battleship's hangar bay and detonated. The battleship broke in half. Again and again, human ships sacrificed themselves to destroy Dominion vessels. They didn't hesitate. They didn't flee. They flew toward death like they were greeting an old friend. In the middle of the battle, a Galactic Council observer watched from a small diplomatic ship at the edge of the conflict. His name was, and he was from a species called the peaceful beings with long tentacles and sensitive souls. He had been sent to monitor the situation and report back to the council. He had never seen anything like this. "They're insane," he whispered, his tentacles trembling. "They're flying into certain death. They're smiling while they do it. What kind of species?" He watched a human destroyer, badly damaged and on fire, change course toward a Dominion carrier. The destroyer's captain could have retreated, could have saved his crew. Instead, he pushed his engines to maximum and crashed directly into the carrier's bridge. Both ships vanished in a ball of fire. Began recording his report to the council. His voice shook. "The humans do not fight like other species. They do not calculate victory or defeat. They fight with complete disregard for their own survival. They seem to believe that if they are going to die, they must take as many enemies with them as possible. It is not bravery. It is something older, something more primal." He paused, trying to find the right words. "They are not trying to win this battle. They are trying to make the Dominion remember it forever, and I think they might succeed." 4 hours into the battle, Admiral looked at the casualty reports and felt sick. He had lost 140 ships. The humans had lost 200. By numbers alone, the Dominion was winning. But the humans kept coming. They didn't stop. They didn't slow down. Every time a human ship was destroyed, two more appeared to take its place. They were like a hydra from Earth mythology, cut off one head and more grew back. And they were getting closer to the planet, closer to the ground troops, closer to the colonists who had held out for 6 months. Thought about what would happen if the humans reached those colonists. He thought about the fury that had brought 800 ships across the galaxy. He thought about what that fury would do to his soldiers on the surface. He made a decision. All ships, he ordered, retreat. His officers stared at him. Sir. Retreat, screamed. Get our troops off that moon and retreat, now. The Dominion fleet broke formation and ran. They picked up as many ground troops as they could, barely 2,000 out of the original 8,000, and fled into faster-than-light travel. Admiral Park did not pursue. He watched the Dominion ships disappear, then turned to look at 7. The moon hung in space and burned, but still there, still human. Send landing parties, he said. Find the colonists, tell them it's over. Was crying, she didn't know why. Sir, we lost 200 ships, thousands of people. Park nodded slowly. I know, they'll be remembered, every single one of them. He looked at the moon again. Send a message to the colonists. Tell them we're here. Tell them we're sorry it took so long. In the tunnels beneath heard the news through a broken radio that had managed to repair. Repeat, the Dominion fleet has retreated. Human forces are landing now. Medical teams are incoming. You're safe. It's over. Sat down on the cold stone floor. Around her, people were cheering, crying, hugging each other. 6 months of darkness and fear and death, and now it was over. Now they were saved. But didn't cheer. She thought about, buried deep in the tunnels. She thought about and blown apart in the darkness of space. She thought about all the people who had died so that this moment could happen. Sat down beside her. His cybernetic arm was damaged beyond repair, hanging useless at his side. His face was covered in scars. We did it, he said. We held. Nodded, tears were running down her face, but she was smiling. We did more than hold, she said. We showed the galaxy what humans are made of. She looked up at the ceiling, imagining the stars beyond. They'll never forget this. They'll never corner us again. Far above, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the first rescue ships descend to the surface. He thought about the colonists down there, the farmers and miners and children who had fought an empire with nothing but courage and determination. He thought about humanity, his species, their greatest strength and their greatest flaw. They didn't know how to quit. They didn't know how to surrender. They didn't know how to accept defeat. And that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Park smiled. Let them remember, he said softly. Let everyone remember. The galaxy would, for a very, very long time. A human colony went dark. The galaxy learned why you don't corner humans. Part 5. The Galaxy Remembers. 1 year after the siege ended, the Galactic Council met to discuss what everyone was calling the human question. The council chamber was enormous, a vast dome of glass and metal floating in space, with seats for representatives from over 200 species. Some of these species had been traveling between stars for millions of years. Some had built empires that spanned entire galaxies. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had thought they understood everything there was to understand about war and peace and survival. The humans had taught them otherwise. Stood at the central podium looking up at the gathered representatives. She wore a simple black dress, nothing fancy, nothing impressive. Her hair was gray now, more gray than it had been a year ago. The siege had aged her, but her eyes were still sharp, still burning with the same fire that had kept 12,000 people alive for 6 months. You invited me here to explain, she said. Her voice echoed through the chamber. You want to understand why we did what we did. You want to know if we're a threat. You want to decide what to do about us. She paused and looked around at the alien faces watching her. I'm not here to explain. I'm not here to apologize, I'm here to tell you the truth." In the Dominion section, their ambassador shifted uncomfortably. The Dominion had been forced to pay massive reparations for the siege. They had lost their seat on the Council's Security Committee. Their reputation, built over thousands of years, had been destroyed in 6 months. "The truth," continued, "is that we didn't do anything special. We didn't have superior weapons or technology. We didn't have secret strategies. We just refused to give up." She pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Behind her, a holographic display appeared, names scrolling across the screen. Thousands of names. "These are the people who died on New, farmers, engineers, teachers, children. My daughter is on this list. She was 7 years old. She died in a tunnel collapse during the 3rd month of the siege." The chamber went silent. "You ask why we fought so hard. You ask why we didn't surrender when we were outnumbered, surrounded. You want a complicated answer, some deep philosophy about human nature." Shook her head. "There is no complicated answer. We fought because those were our homes. Those were our families. Those were our lives. We fought because the alternative was to let everything we loved be taken from us, and we would rather die than let that happen." She turned to look directly at the Dominion ambassador. "You thought we were weak because we were kind, because we smiled at strangers, because we helped other species when they needed it. You thought kindness was weakness." Her voice hardened. "Kindness is a choice. We choose to be kind because we know what we're capable of when we stop being kind. We know the darkness inside us. We've seen it. We've used it. We hope we never have to use it again." She looked back at the assembly. "But we will if we have to. If you threaten our people, if you corner us, if you leave us no other choice." The words hung in the air like a promise, or a threat, or both. "I have one question for this council," said. "One simple question." She waited until everyone was looking at her. "What did you expect us to do?" No one answered. No one could answer. Nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." She walked off the podium and out of the chamber. Behind her, 200 species sat in silence, thinking about what they had just heard. The vote came 3 days later. Some species had proposed restrictions on human military expansion. Some had suggested that humans should be monitored for signs of aggression. Some had even suggested that the humans should be punished for their disproportionate response to the siege. The vote failed unanimously. No one wanted to be the species that cornered humanity again. Back on 7, New was being rebuilt. The population had grown from 7,000 survivors to over 50,000. People had come from all over human space to help rebuild. They came because they had watched the siege. They had seen the footage. They had heard words. They wanted to be part of something. Where the old colony had been, the metal boxes and dusty streets, new buildings rose toward the sky. Real buildings made of stone and glass. There were parks now and schools and hospitals. There was a university named after. There was a spaceport named after it. And in the center of everything, there was a memorial. It was a wall of black stone, imported from Earth. From Korea, specifically, from the mountains where it had grown up before she left her planet to find a new life among the stars. The names of every person who died in the siege were carved into the stone gold letters on black rock. At the base of the wall, words were inscribed. They thought we were weak because we were kind. They learned that kindness is a choice, and so is war. Visited the memorial every morning. She would stand in front of the wall and read the names. Some days she talked to them. Some days she just stood in silence. Some days she cried. Some days she didn't. Today she was not alone. Stood beside her. His cybernetic arm had been replaced with a new one, better than the old one, faster and stronger. But his face still carried the scars from the tunnels. He never wanted those removed. He said they helped him remember. Was there too, and was 20 now, a young man instead of a scared boy. He had enrolled in the new university. He was studying medicine. He said he wanted to save lives now instead of taking them. They stood together in front of the memorial as the twin suns rose over New. The light made the golden letters glow like they were on fire. "They're still talking about us," said the other species. "I heard they wrote a whole book about the siege. They're using it in their schools." Smiled slightly. "What are they teaching?" "Don't mess with humans." Laughed. It was a good sound. None of them had laughed much in the past year. "Think they'll remember?" asked. "In 100 years, 1,000. Looked at the wall, at the names. At's name carved in gold. "Maybe," she said. "Maybe not. Species forget things. History becomes legend. Legend becomes myth. Eventually we'll just be another story." She reached out and touched her daughter's name. "But that's okay. Stories are powerful things. As long as someone somewhere tells the story of New, we'll never really be gone." Far above, a ship was entering orbit. It was a Dominion vessel, but not a warship, a passenger ship. It carried tourists who had come to see the famous colony that had held out against an empire. They came from a dozen different species, all of them curious about the humans who refused to surrender. The tour guide, a young human woman named, gathered the visitors at the spaceport and began her speech. "Welcome to New. You've probably heard the stories. Most of them are true. 6 months, 12,000 people, and 200 warships. Everyone thought we would lose. Everyone was wrong." She led them through the streets, past the new buildings and the old scars. "Some people ask me why we fought so hard. They say we could have surrendered, we could have lived. They don't understand." She stopped in front of the memorial. The visitors stared at the wall of names. "Humans don't fight because we think we'll win," said. "We fight because some things are worth dying for. Our homes, our families, our freedom. If we lose those things, we've already lost everything. Death is just a detail." She smiled at the visitors. Some of them looked uncomfortable. Some of them looked afraid. "Good. There's an old human saying," she continued. "It goes, 'Beware the fury of a patient man.' We're a patient species most of the time. We're kind. We're friendly. We want to get along with everyone." Her smile faded. "But don't mistake our patience for weakness. Don't mistake our kindness for inability to fight. And whatever you do, don't corner us." She turned and looked at the memorial one last time. "Because if you do, you'll learn what every species in this galaxy has learned, what the Dominion learned, what the Council learned." She looked back at the visitors. "You'll learn why you don't corner humans, and you'll remember that lesson for the rest of your very, very long lives." Above them, the twin suns shone down on New, the colony that refused to die, the people who wouldn't give up, the species that the galaxy had underestimated. Never again. The tourists left that day with souvenirs and photographs and stories to tell their families. They told those stories to their children, who told them to their children, who told them to theirs. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different languages, on 1,000,000 different worlds, the message spread. Be kind to humans, trade with humans, make friends with humans. But never, ever corner them. Because cornered humans don't surrender. They don't run. They don't calculate odds or count their enemies. They just fight until there's nothing left. And they always, always keep their promises. The galaxy remembered. The galaxy would never forget.